Ladies and gentlemen, in the upper right, in the blue, we have AOL Matthieu going to be playing as Odin. And by the way, guys, some of these cards, they aren't fully updated because there was an update right before Red Bull, and I haven't had a chance to change the cards. So it is what it is. Most of the stuff is correct, but some things could be off by a little here and there. In the bottom left, in the red, we have King Victor, which we have watched quite a few games of his, playing as Poseidon. Who I was asked one time who I think has the best god portrait. It's gotta be Poseidon. And it's cool, the thing is, most people didn't even know those little waves behind his portrait. Those aren't just waves. Those are his 4 like water horses. They're literally horses like made out of water in that wave. Most people don't even realize is there, which is awesome. Very excited for this game. Let's take a look at these relics here. We have the Gambentian Odin's Wand. Temple improvements are cheaper by 25% across the board. That's a really good one. We have the Armor of Achilles. Increases the hack armor of infantry by 5%. Another pretty good relic. We have the Trojan Gate Hinge. Increases wall hit points by 20%. If you're using the walls, obviously very good. And all the way over here, what do we got? We've got the Harmonious Necklace. Gold gathers faster by 10%. That is really, really good. Now, it says for villagers. Now, does this affect dwarves? I assume it does. And if it does, that 10% is probably a pretty decent chunk of a number. All right, so we are now at 13 villagers to 14. Got the temple going to be coming up. We got 3 dwarves. And by the way, for those that don't know, maybe you're newer to the game or whatnot, trying to learn. Dwarves are basically the same thing as a villager, but they are better at getting gold. They cost gold to make, but they are worse at getting food and wood. And I had someone ask me last stream, so I know there's new people watching all the time. An ox cart is used as your drop-off point. So you notice how, here's an example, the Greeks have a storehouse. This can't move or anything, but this is what you use to drop off your gold. And same thing with wood. You've got a lumber yard, and obviously food. You usually have a granary, but the cool thing for Poseidon is you actually get a lure. And what the lure does is actually, exactly as the name sounds, it brings in animals from the surrounding area and it sucks them up into its radius. And now the difference between this lure and the original game's lure, for those classical people out there, you would normally put your lure next to your TC because it did not count as a drop-off point, but it does in Retold. Now, I don't know if it comes up in this game or if it was only in the beta branch for the Red Bull patch for the Red Bull tournament, but in one of them, or maybe both now, it was able to be used to upgrade as well. And it also spawns chickens, absolutely. What's going on, Scuba Steve? How you doing, buddy? Killing it. Yeah, I got a very lucky raid. I usually get between 200 and 300 viewers, but today we got a raid from I Am Magic, one of the best players in the game. So I was very, very thankful for him for doing that. Yeah, it's true. I got lucky. I actually was on a tear. I don't know what happened. I had up to 707 viewers on Twitch. No raids, no nothing. 707 viewers. It was on a Monday. And then I had like 200-something viewers on YouTube. It wasn't a turn. There was nothing going on. It was just people watching me. And then, right as I hit 707 viewers, my breaker blew for that had all of my power stuff hooked up to it. My breaker blew. I came back still at 500 viewers, but I've never caught back up to that. I'm not going to tell you guys how angry I was when my breaker blew, but you can imagine. All right, Great Hall going to be coming up in the back. Both players are at that next age. Yo Desolate Attorneys. Speaking of Yo Desolate Attorneys, you guys should definitely check out the, I think it's exclamation point announcement. I don't know if a zoo's here. I think there is a link for that. You should definitely check that out. It's not for a long time, but the fact that I got that is already crazy enough. I'm super excited about it for sure. Cyclops so much better now. Well, they're definitely better than they were. I mean, in terms of like, you know, going Cyclops instead of Minotaur. I still see mostly Minotaur, but just not in this case. Also, as Poseidon, I would still prefer, obviously, to go for Centaur. That sounds good, Scuba. Don't worry, buddy. All right, big attack here in the choke. I'm surprised he's not using Forest Fire. And that's just right as I say that, he drops in the Forest Fire, and he is stuck next to it. That's about as good as a Forest Fire as you're gonna get. So nicely done there. Beautiful Forest Fire. Oh my God. AOL Matthieu with probably one of the best Forest Fires of the day, of the week maybe. You barely get to see that right there, get that much value. So good. Great job there from AOL for sure. Victor just got stuck. He had no choice but to fight right there. And by the way, for those who don't know, a little bit of information. I say this a lot, but when there's a forest fire and a unit or a structure is next to that forest fire, it actually leaves an impression on the units visually. So you can actually see how the Valkyrie's horse is gray now instead of white? It's because it's the soot from the fire and it's permanently on that unit till it dies, which is pretty cool. All right, we got a little raid though coming in from Victor once again on the other side. And here we go, right up on the gold right now. I like how he's dragging away like 3 units with a single hippus. Very nicely done. Great micro there from Victor for sure. Starting to pull him back down. 34 villagers to 23. That is insane right now. Matthieu definitely struggling in the villager department. He got a great 1 engagement, but he needs to do more, I think, to come back in this game. He's got a good military, 55 to 48, but it's not big enough to cover that gap of 24 villagers to 35. And here we go. We're going to be seeing the medium cav coming in right now for Victor as well. Nasty little army. Regular herdman. Getting those in medium would obviously be a little bit better, but gotta do what you gotta do here. 63 favor right now for Matthieu as well. A few villagers coming down. I'm gonna start getting some wood down here. Got a nice little line of houses. From Victor, things you can tell when a player doesn't play a lot of like other age games. Like these houses, I know it's gonna sound ridiculous, but what you could have done is actually use them to go from this tree line to here, and it would just give you a nice natural wall. You see that a lot in like age 2 and age 4, but especially age 2, using your structures and walls and whatnot. At the very least, you can use those houses to cover around the outside of your tower to give them more bulk, like a look that he was about to do there. But I suppose if you're going to be the one doing the raiding, then it won't matter too much. Also, being on this map, I talked to you guys about watering hole a lot. Usually there's only 2 or 3 gaps into your base anyway, so what you can do is just cover that up, cover that with a wall right there, and boom, your entire side of the map is protected. Now, with those walls being so far apart, you're going to have trouble actually defending all 3 of those locations, but what it does do is it gives you a warning. So let's say your opponent's coming in for a raid. They have to bust down that wall before they actually get behind your base. So you get time and you're not caught off by surprise. You don't just lose a bunch of villagers. It's a very cheap way to make sure that you don't just lose a bunch of vills. Also, probably should be protecting that villager with a couple of units, but not going to happen there. Loses the villager before the wall goes up. Another pro move that you guys can do, instead of just building and doing one wall at a time here, build a little bit of this wall, build a little bit of that one. That way, if your opponent does come in, just so you guys know, a wall does not have to be built for it to stop a unit from going over it. It just has to be built a tiny, tiny bit. Just a couple little hammer ticks onto it, and that it becomes a solid structure on the ground. So even though it's not finished, if you would have hit the hammer on that one time, they would not have been able to cross over it. Yeah, the walls are just for alert. Absolutely. And they are very effective at that. And obviously, later game, if you want to, it's expensive, you know, for what you get. But you can actually turn those into stone walls, and then raiding cav and whatnot actually have a long. They take a long time to bust those down. Also, in this case, in this particular case, a better wall would probably be a wall to here, and then here to here, because you would actually encase your gold and be another free gold for you. Not free, but, you know, protected. Got a nice army here from Matthieu. He's still down in population a little bit, 117 to 85. We are going to see the heroic age coming up for him, though, which could be a very, very nice, you know, buff to him here. Medium hoplites. I'm sorry, medium hippists are in here. We do have a couple of heroes. Got Atalanta. Atalanta should be running around looking for damage. She is so quick, but I guess she doesn't want to get caught by a bunch of raiding cav. And of course, you know, Valkyrie coming up to heal that raiding cav. Great match. Yeah, it's been very, very back and forth, very calculated from both players here. But I'll tell you what, you know, the economy from Victor is just so strong. No, you can tell it's not. It's Scotty. Skatey. And here we go. It's going to be a freeze. Hopefully he doesn't freeze the whole army. We see it a lot, even among the best players in the game. They use that freeze and they freeze a whole army. But, you know, coming from, like, Stark... Okay, again, I don't understand this. Matthieu, you know, you're a top player, so explain this to me. I have a different mindset when it comes to this, because unless you're going to run in and go for villager kills, right, why not just freeze half the army and kill the other half? And use it like a stasis, right? That's how I think about it. But, well, I mean, well, yeah, you could still do that. You could freeze half, kill it, and then wall them in as well, right? Yeah, this is just basically like a ceasefire. Well, ceasefire where your opponent can't move. Multiples do one damage. That's what I'm saying. That's why if you freeze half, you go after the half that's not frozen. Halo Wars IQ. Hey, I'm just saying, it's also a thing that they do in StarCraft as well. Big attack coming in here. 116 military to 114. It's about as equal as it gets right now. Now, here's the thing. If Matthieu can actually focus down the heroes and make sure that they're all dead, he can just run in here and the Frost Giants will kill everything. $91 military to 69. I mean, it looks like you're still winning the fight anyway. I'm just saying in general. 94 military to 54, 42 villagers to 54. I'm really surprised that Victor doesn't have more, considering that villager deficit that we had for such a long period of time. Yeah, those villagers got to make a run for it here through that gate. Oh, and gets caught. 44 villagers to 54, 10 villager deficit right now, but the military is heavily in Matthieu's favor. Mr. Pound, thank you so much for the raid. so many Valkyries in there. And they are the upgraded Valkyrie, guys. You can actually tell if they're upgraded by the trail of, like, rainbow stuff they got going on behind them. That's one of the cool things, I guess, about, you know, playing the game at max settings. You get to see the pretty stuff like that. God, the game just looks so good. Say what you want about Age of Mythology. I don't care. The game looks amazing. So good. And look at that. Matthieu gonna take the victory, even though he was down, I'd say 20% villagers, 99% of that game. Beautiful game from AOL Matthieu there. Beautifully done. Awesome game. Great engagement there at the end. Throw some GGs in the chat, guys, for both players. It was an awesome game for both players for sure. I'll tell you the best parts of that game, though, from Matthieu was that beautiful forest fire catch that he had right here. His opponent was stuck. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place, or a rock and a hot place, basically. And got a beautiful engagement using the forest fire. You barely ever see it used that well, and it was gorgeous to see. Obviously, the frost here was good. He tried to wall him up right there to stop him from getting away once he was unfrozen, but he won the fight outright anyway. Awesome, awesome game for sure. If you're watching in the future on YouTube, my name is Yo Desla, and I'll see you guys next time.